Hello guys, my name is Eragon, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the uses of bone plating. So I'm not going to be wasting your time telling you about what it does. So if you're not sure what bone plating does, go read the wiki and come back. So obviously, before I get started, disclaimer: this isn't every use of bone plating, right? But a few examples to get you thinking about using the rune proactively. As when it's not used proactively, it is indeed not the best, right? So hopefully after this video, you can start thinking about more uses outside of the examples I've given you, So bone plating, right? Just a little mini intro, is one of the most misunderstood runes, minor runes in the game. Plenty of high elo OTPs and players always say like how useful it is, how useless it is, right? And how you should never run bone plating. But funnily enough, the rune is almost always taken in the Eastern servers, regardless of matchup. Right? While I don't think either is correct, it's just a funny little fact. Also, side note, I always find it funny how the players who say bone plating is bad main champions who are good into bone plating, right? So it's just, have a little perspective, guys. Anyway, let's get started. We'll start off simple, then get into more complex and high elo applications, right? So first, let's start. Spells with multiple instances. Okay, this might be more commonly known than the rest, but I have had coaching clients in Master Plus who did not know this, but bone plating can counter specific spells which have more than one instance of damage on them, right? So let's take a look at some examples, right? So I'll look at Shenq first. Whoops, I shouldn't go back there. Wait, I have to end the screen recording. There we go, and open this. Cool. So, in this clip, you can see how a Shen has Grasp of the Undying and Q, right? Okay, and he walks up to auto the Renekton and will proc bone plating. So let's take a look. Right. Okay, so what's happened there is, however he is proc bone plating, with one auto attack, that same auto attack has consumed 2 stacks of bone plating at the same time as proccing it initially, right? So the reason for this is that the Shen Q auto counts as 3 instances of damage in one, right? It's Grasp of the Undying, the auto attack, and Shen Q. So what's happened is you've reduced so much damage instantly, right? With just one auto attack. This is why Shen Q is initially, and Shen in general is innately, countered by bone plating, and this is why all the best Shens, like Shending Help, will always tell you to go bone plating versus Shen, because a Shen Q would normally chunk a lot more than this, but because of bone plating consuming 2 charges, right, where they would normally be here. Oh wait, whoops, I'm trolling. How do I use the pen? There we go. Where they'll be normally like here, right? These have been all consumed in one auto attack, right? Let me go back here. I'm trolling, my bad. Okay, the fucking quality is terrible, but if you want to go back, just go back in the video and you'll see how one auto attack procs bone plating, doesn't consume any stacks, and then 2 more are consumed in the same auto attack. So, next example, Camille W, right? This one's lesser known. Here's another great example, right? I learned from a challenger top laner called Mummus, right? I'm good friends with him. Versus Camille, her W will proc bone plating, then also be consumed by it, okay? Also, you deny level 1 Q spam Camille trade, which is really nice in game as well. But it will be consumed by it because how Camille W works is that Camille W is 2 instances of damage, right? It's 2 instances. You have your Camille like just base damage, right? But then also the blade outer damage counts as its own damage, right? So you have 2 instances. So what will happen is bone plating will be procced by the W, but then the percentage health will be reduced. So let's take a look just to show you. Right, so notice how there is bone plating gets procced. Sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. Bone plating gets procced, and then Camille W percentage health damage gets reduced. That way, Camille W gets a lot less value, right? And these are just 2 examples, right? There's so many spells that get negated this way. There's so many spells that get negated this way, and I'm not going to list all of them, right? There's no fucking point. So I just want you to go think about them and notice it in game, so you know who bone plating is good into, just innately like this. It's a very important bit of information to know. Okay, so let's talk about this concept, right? So I've got 4. We'll just start with this. Time for all-ins. So this is a really important one, okay? That many people do not use. Right, I cannot tell you how many times I've had to teach people how to do this, because like high elo, low elo, it doesn't matter. People just do not use this. Outside of what I've seen is really high elo streamers like Zeus, for example, right? And pro players. So actively using the UI and timing the uptime of the bone plating for it to come up in the middle of all ins. So let me yeah, so here it is, right? So here's the clip. So let's take a look. So what's going to happen is we're going to see Camille trading with Renekton, right? And by the way, wait, before I talk about this VOD, this is a clip just taken from Lol Dobby's video, right? So let me just scroll down and show you. This is Lol Dobby, okay? He is a fantastic YouTuber, okay? And I hope he doesn't hate me using 10 seconds of a video, but it's such a good example, and his videos are so good that I'd want to promote it too. So if you guys want good quality League of Legends content, which there really isn't that much educational good quality content, I recommend Lol Dobby's video. His channel is in my description, and yeah, we're just going to use this real quick. So what's going to happen is we're going to see bone plating coming up in 5 seconds or so before a trade. And then Camille is going to go all in that 5 seconds so that the bone plating comes up in the middle of the trade rather than at the start. So what that happens then is Renekton has to trade into bone plating in the middle of the trade. Rather than proccing at the start and then disengaging, he now has to trade into it, has no choice. Okay, so let's take a look. I'll full screen this. So yeah, it's highlighting some other fundamentals, which is really good from Lol Dobby's point. So here, what we have to do to use this fundamental is we have to watch this indicator, right? So this is really important. You watch when bone plating is going to be up. So you could see how the lines, it's going to be about roughly 5 seconds, right? So what happens now is Camille's going to engage with it coming up in 5 seconds so that it comes up in the trade, in the all-in, right? So Lol Dobby does a great job of highlighting it, right? So it's coming up soon, it's coming up soon. And he even zooms in. You see how it came up in the trade. Now, Renekton has to trade into this in the all-in, right? And granted, this is on Renekton, right? Because he's not watching the cooldown of bone plating. But this is T1 Zeus versus another Korean challenger player. If Korean challenger players are making this mistake, that means your laners will be making this mistake too, right? Probably worse. So time it for when it's going to come up so that in all ends it guarantees the victory, like in the middle or at the end, you know? That's really important. And then Renekton has no hope because like his autos do no damage. Not saying that Renekton would have won this anyway, but it's the general concept that can be very, very big in 1v1s. Okay, and Renekton dies. Well done. Good job. Good video, Lol Dobby. Well done. Anyway, okay. So I'm getting through this video really fast, actually. I didn't expect this. Anyway, here's another one, which is relatively simple. But in my games, personally, people still mess this up, right? So I'm talking like GMMR, right? So it's a really obvious fundamental to not trade even HP on an enemy slow push, right? So what I mean by that is enemies slow pushing in, right? So pretend I'm the enemy's Renekton, right? That's me. I'm slow pushing a big wave in, and I'm going to crash the wave. And what I'm thinking here is that my Evelyn's topside. Maybe if I crash the wave in time, my Evelyn coming top, we can dive, right? So it's in Aurelia's best interest to not trade HP evenly because her HP is worth more, okay? And the only way she survives is she's maybe full HP and plays very well, you know? So, not only this, though, what people don't account for is not getting their bone plating knocked off before the dive. So if you actively keep up your bone plating before the dive, it's loads of damage mitigation, right, in that dive. So, let's take a look at what actually happens. I'm going to speed it up. There's no point. I'm just slow pushing, right? So, it's in my best interest to knock off the bone plating before we dive. Right? So that she's less tanky when we do dive her. Right? So that's what I'm going to do. And it's, don't get me wrong, once again, it's Aurelia's fault for letting it get knocked off. But I don't even know she's thinking that, right? She should just be sitting back and waiting for the wave. Do you see? Her bone plating's knocked off now. I don't care that mine's knocked off. She cares that hers is. Because, hey, her HP is worth more than mine. She's going to get dived. She needs to survive. Otherwise, she misses this huge wave and more. Right? So let's take a look. So I'm just chunking her before the dive. Standard stuff. But I also had the mentality to knock off a bone plating. I checked if it was up or not, and I knocked it off, right, with a Q. And then she misplays, right? So this is also just a misplay, right? She doesn't W my stun. She doesn't damage reduce my empowered stun from Renekton. And then she gets one shot. But what if she W'd my stun and she had bone plating up? Right? And then Zac comes. There's a real world that I die. Right, like there's a straight up real world that I die. So it doesn't work out for her in the end because she misplays by not Wing, and that's honestly the bigger mistake. But it's all these little things together that if she did, there's a real world we lose this game because a dive is botched, you know. But I don't know if she's thinking this much, and it's certainly something I don't see other people talking about. So yeah, it didn't happen in this VOD, but it's about the concept. Okay, cool. Yeah, so TLDR, keep up Boneplating for dives and other reasons that we'll get into now. Okay, so this is the highest elo one, right? So this last concept, it's a bit more high elo relevant as it requires the enemy to know a certain strategy, right? So very common tactic in high elo at the moment is to have a stronger level 1 and zone the enemy laner off of the first 3 minions, melee minions, right? Of XP to generate a big lead for free, essentially. So there's not much counterplay to this outside of some like alcove shenanigans where you sit in the alcove level 1 and wait for you to get soak XP of the melees without the enemy realizing, and then you come out after. But people mess up the other counterplay, which is actually Boneplating, right? And I see this messed up every elo, right? Just straight up every elo. So the whole concept here, right? The simple idea is that you use Boneplating and walk up to soak the XP of the 3 melees, and you use Boneplating to mitigate that damage that you would normally take soaking the XP, right? What I will see, right, is people go too early or something and get their Boneplating knocked off, and then when they actually want to walk up for the XP, they don't have Boneplating, and then they just take too much damage, right? So the thing is, the best part about this is the enemy is forced to trade into Boneplating if you keep it, because there's only one time window where you have to, like, you want to collect the melee minions, and that's when they're going to die, right? So if I am Mordekaiser here, and I'm going to be wanting to soak XP versus this Wukong, right? I am only going to walk up when the melee minions are about to die and have Boneplating soak the damage, right? And that way, I mitigate as much damage as possible and don't get too low. So let's take a look at me walking up to soak XP real quick. Okay, and we track the HP bars of the melee minions, only walk up when the melee minions are about to die. So I'm watching the HP bars, right? I don't get too close. I don't get in range to... Well, I do actually get in range. So I suppose it is in Wukong's best interest to knock off my Boneplating here, right? So what Wukong should be doing is eating me, like trying to desperately eat me so that I don't have Boneplating to soak XP, right? So what's going to happen is I'll just wait till the minions die, and then I will walk up for XP only at that point. Now, there are some nuances that are really important here, is that you can't get too close to minions when you do this, because if your mage minions start autoing the enemy, they are not going to finish off the minions, so you're actually not going to soak XP and you're going to take a bunch of damage. So you want to do that a bit far away. Last point I will emphasize about this is that this is not possible in every single level 1 zoner matchup, right? So there are matchups where second wind will just strictly outperform Boneplating by a lot. Right, so I'm thinking range champions, right, who will zone you off XP level 1. And also here, note I take a lot of damage, but I would have taken even more and been a lot lower without the Boneplating soaking that much damage, right? So remember, just proactively keep it up, do not trade beforehand, and use it for a specific purpose, like soaking XP level 1. Okay, so that's everything for now. If people enjoy this kind of content, if you guys enjoy this kind of content or find it helpful, I will consider making part 2 with more applications. But the whole idea, right, obviously, is I'm not going to list all the uses, right? It's impossible. There are plenty more, but the idea is to be proactive with the rune, right? Actually track the indicator to see when it's coming up. Actually figure out a way to use it in a trade, right? Maybe knock it off if you have to in an all-in. Let it come back up in the middle of the all-in. Keep it up for a dive, you know, like all these uses that you've got to consciously think about. Anyway, with that out the way, I'll just end off the video with my socials. I stream pretty irregularly, but I plan to soon. I also upload videos like this generally, not too frequently, but I plan to, and have much more videos, like more guides and videos like how to play at level 1 or teleport, as well as coaching VODs. And speaking of coaching, if you are interested in coaching for top lane, my Discord is in the description for that, and just send me a DM, you know. Anyway, I think I'll wrap it up there, so thank you and bye.